Welcome back to English Classes Online, where English learning is made easy. On this channel, our goal is to equip you with the linguistic tools required for effective communication and for success in your English exams. We teach everything English, and your proficiency is our business. If you are intending to take any of the English language proficiency tests, such as IELTS and Duolingo English Test, DET, you'll find links to our training courses in the description section below. Moreover, we teach you how to use the English language as an effective tool for creating content, monetizing content, and creating for yourself multiple streams of income on various online platforms. If you are interested in such lessons, kindly subscribe to this channel by clicking on the subscribe button below. Make sure you click on the bell icon as well, so that whenever a new video is uploaded on the channel you will be notified instantly. This will ensure that you don't miss any of our new videos. We appreciate all of you out there who keep supporting us by liking and sharing our videos with your friends and relations. Do not forget to browse through our playlists for other video lessons. In the description section below you'll also find links to different resources such as ebooks, online courses, and training courses that you might find useful for your English learning or for your content creation skill development. Let's get started with today's lesson right away.
Hi everyone, this is Benjamin from English Classes Online. In today's lesson, our focus is on parts of a sentence, and we want to examine the structure of a sentence in terms of the elements or the units that make up the structure. And these elements can be described by the acronym SVOCA, S-V-O-C-A. S for subject, V for verb, O for object, C for complement, and A for adjunct. Let's dive into the lesson right away. We want to start by looking at the lesson objectives. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to, 1, explain the meaning of sentence, 2, explain why it is important to learn the parts of the English sentence, 3, show the various parts of a sentence with examples. Now, what is a sentence? A sentence is a group of words that expresses a complete thought. First it is a group of words and then it expresses a complete thought. However, a sentence can also be a word, just a word, that expresses a complete thought. All right? And this has to do with a kind of sentence we call the imperative sentence, a kind of sentence that gives an instruction or a command. For example, come. All right? It could be a request, come, or an order, come. A single word, yet it expresses a complete thought. Most of the time, we look at a sentence as an independent clause. And in most cases, we take the structure of the independent clause to examine the structure of a sentence in English. And an independent clause is a group of words that contains a subject and a verb and conveys complete meaning. So we are going to look at all these various definitions. They will, reflect in our various detailed explanations, okay? Now, let's begin to look at why it is important to learn parts of the English sentence. Now, it is important to learn the parts of the English sentence for the following reasons. 1, the English sentence is a structure like the human body. The human body has parts, okay? Now, a structure is made up of parts, and each of the parts plays its role to keep the structure together. And when we look at the human body, we find that the eyes help the human body to see, the mouth enables the human body to speak, the hands enable the human body to get things done, the legs help the body to move from place to place, and so on and so forth. Together, They enable the human body to fulfill its purpose in life. And so this is exactly what the English sentence looks like. The human body is a structure. The English sentence is a structure as well. Number 3, learning the parts of the English sentence helps us to know how the various parts play their various roles to enable the sentence to convey its intended meaning. 4, learning and mastering parts of the sentence helps English learners to improve their speech and writing. By learning the sentence parts, you get to understand the way English sentences are usually structured. It enables you to use correct sentences since you know how sentences are structured, all right? And 5, it also enables you to use a variety of sentences in communicating your ideas. What are the parts of the English sentence? Let's begin to look at the parts. The parts of a sentence, which can also be called elements of sentence, can be summarized in the acronym SVOCA, S-V-O-C-A, all right? Now, S stands for subject, and the subject is the doer of the action in a sentence or the topic of the sentence. In other words, the subject is who or what the subject is about. Then the verb, of course, is the word that shows an action or state of being. The object is usually the receiver of the action expressed by the verb. The complement is the one that completes the meaning of the sentence. You can also look at the complement as the description of the subject. If you say Junior is a boy, the word a boy describes Junior. Or if you say Junior is handsome, the word handsome describes Junior, and it is the complement. Then we have the adjunct. The adjunct indicates when, where, how, why, under what condition, or to what extent, and so on and so forth, something happens. So an adjunct is usually an adverbial element, okay? And we are going to look at some of this in subsequent lessons. But today, let's look at how these parts of the sentences work together. How do these parts work together? In examining the English sentence structure, we are looking at the units or elements that make up the English sentence and how these elements are combined to form different sentences. For example, an English sentence can have 5 units known as elements of sentence. They are subjects, represented by S, verb V, object O, complement C, and adjunct A. And that is what we call SVOCA or SVOCA. So we are looking at how English sentences operate. English sentences operate using a similar pattern. You know, for example, the subject performs an action. The verb reports the action. The object receives the action reported by the verb, and so on and so forth. This pattern is known as SVO. For example, Olu killed an elephant. Olu is the subject, killed is the verb, and an elephant is the object, okay? Now, we are going to look at how English sentences are structured with some or all of these parts. Now, let's begin to look at them. The first one, we want to look at a verb. You know, we represent this with V. When the structure of a sentence is made up of a single word, just one part, V, and that is the verb. For example, come. This is an imperative sentence, you know, and it can be simply a verb, come, or go, all right? Or run, stand, sit. You know, these are verbs that are used in giving some specific instructions, and they can express a complete thought. And by virtue of being able to express a complete thought, they can be looked at as a sentence. Number 2, the SV structure. A sentence with the SV structure contains the subject and the verb. So we have subject plus verb. For example, an eagle flies. Now the subject is an eagle and the verb is flies. Number 3, SVO. A sentence with the SVO structure contains 3 parts: the subject plus the verb plus the object. For example, Jack killed a snake. Jack is the subject, killed is the verb, a snake is the object. Number 4, SVA. A sentence with the SVA structure contains 3 parts: subject plus verb plus adjunct. For example, the woman wept bitterly. The woman wept bitterly. The woman is the subject. Wept is the verb. Bitterly is the adjunct. Number 5, SVC. A sentence with the SVC structure contains 3 parts: subject plus verb plus complement. For example, Junior is a student. Junior is the subject, is the verb, a student is the complement. Okay, now let's look at this to give you a clearer view of these various elements. You see that this Junior is the subject. The subject is the person we are talking about is Junior. That's the subject. I want you to understand it. There are 2 things a subject can, a subject can mean. A subject can be the doer of an action. Okay? If we say Junior goes to school, Junior performed the action of going. But if we say Junior is a student, then Junior is simply the person we are talking about. And that reflects the 2 meanings, the 2 major meanings of the verb. The verb can report an action and the verb can report a state of being. Okay? So Junior is a student. Also implies that Junior goes to school. So you see, and the verb is here is a being verb, is a word that expresses a state of being. And then a student actually is a noun phrase. A noun phrase is a naming group of words. A noun is a naming word. And so a noun or a noun phrase can be the complement. And when we look at Junior is a student tells us more about Junior. Okay, and what the complement does is that the complement completes the meaning of the sentence. If we say Junior is, and we stop there, the listener will ask us a question. Junior is who, or Junior is what? It's either who or what. That's what a complement tells us. Okay, now let's continue. SVCA. A sentence with the SVCA structure contains 4 parts: subject plus verb plus complement plus adjunct. Now, for example, the march was interesting as usual. The march is the subject, was is the verb, interesting is the complement, as usual is the adjunct. Now, let's look at these various parts in some detail. The march is the subject. The subject is the topic. Everything we are talking about is about the march. And so the subject is the topic of the sentence. I want you to get this right. And then the verb is the word that expresses either an action or a state of being. In this case, the verb was reports a state of being in the past. The march was. Now, interesting is the complement, and the word interesting is an adjective, a describing word. So a complement is a word or a group of words that describes the subject. For example, if we say the march was interesting, and someone didn't hear when we actually mention the subject, then the person can ask us what was interesting. We say the match, okay? And then if we omit interesting, someone has to ask the question. If we say the match was, and we leave it there, somebody will ask, the match was what? All right, so the complement is required to complete the meaning of a sentence which was mentioned halfway and needs the complement to make it a complete thought. Because when you say the match was, then the listener is confused. The match was what? Interesting is needed to complete the meaning of this sentence. The match was interesting. And the fourth part of this sentence, as usual, is an adjunct. An adjunct is an adverbial. An adverbial can be a single word adverb or an adverbial phrase, or even in some cases, an adverbial clause. In this case, this is an adverbial phrase. And so the match was interesting as usual. An adjunct always tells us either how, or when, or where, or under which condition, to what extent, for what purpose. These are the ideas that are expressed by the adjunct in a sentence. Now let's look at this particular adjunct. Let's look at what it actually expresses. The match was interesting as usual. As usual. So as usual here, what does it really express? It expresses the idea of frequency, because as usual here means always, for example, as usual, as it normally happens, so most of the time, the match is always interesting. And so it was interesting as usual. So it expresses the idea of how often, or you can simply say how, Well, interesting describes the match, and then as usual, gives us the frequency angle, So let's look at the next structure of the sentence, which is number 7, SVCC. A sentence with the SVCC structure contains 4 parts: subject plus verb plus complement plus complement. So we have 2 complements here. For example, Mary was worried about her daughter. Mary was worried about her daughter. Okay, now Mary is the subject, was is the verb, worried is the complement, and about her daughter is another complement. Now, what happens here is that after worried, which is the complement, worried, by the way, is a past participle, which is used as an adjective here, okay? As an adjective, which of course is functioning as a complement. Now, we see that this is about her daughter is an adjective complement. Now, this one is the complement of the subject. Worried is the subject complement. Mary was worried. If we omit worried, then the question will be what? Mary was what? Mary was worried. So that describes the mood of Mary, her state of mind at the time of speaking or writing. And so this being an adjective needs another complement if another question arises. Okay? There are many reasons why people get worried. So if you say Mary was worried, someone might want to know why Mary was worried. And so a good answer could be because of her daughter, about her daughter. So you see, that is exactly what we find here. And essentially, this is doing the job of an adjective complement. Mary was worried about her daughter, okay? Okay, so let's now look at number 8, SVOA. A subject is, a sentence placed with the SVOA structure also contains 4 parts: subject plus verb plus object plus adjunct. For example, Debbie writes Instagram posts every week, all right? Debbie writes Instagram posts every week. Okay, so now Debbie is the subject, writes is the verb, Instagram posts is the object, and every week is the adjunct. This is an adjunct of time, which supplies answer to the question when. Debbie writes Instagram posts. You know, one of the questions could be when, okay? Or how often. You know, this particular every week is a more appropriate answer to how often. How often does Debbie write Instagram posts? And the answer is every week. The idea of time is there, but then more specifically, the idea of frequency. How often does Debbie write Instagram posts? Every week. All right. Now let's go to number 9, SVOA. A sentence with the SVOA structure also contains 4 parts: subject plus verb plus object plus complement. Okay. And so we have an example here. Singing makes Jane happy. Singing makes Jane happy. Now, singing is the subject. It might interest you to know that singing is a verbal form used as a noun. And that is what we call, that is what, of course, generally it is seen as a present participle. But then when we use the present participle as a noun or as a subject, we call it a gerund. So that is what singing is doing here in this sentence. Singing is the subject. Ordinarily, you should know that singing is a verb, but here it is used as a subject, which ordinarily should be a noun or a pronoun. That is because we have nominalized the verb singing. Nominalization has to do with converting a verb or an adjective into a noun. And that is the topic of another lecture. If you browse through the channel, you might find some videos I have uploaded that give clear explanation about what nominalization means in the English language. So singing makes Jane happy. Let's look at this. Singing is the subject, makes is the verb, Jane is the object, happy is the complement. Now singing, I have explained it as the subject. That is the topic. That's what we are talking about. You know, if we omit the subject and we say makes Jane happy, somebody wants to know what makes Jane happy, and that is singing. All right. So singing is the topic of the sentence, and that's the work of the subject. That's what the sentence is about. Now, makes is the verb, and this is an action word. In this sentence, the verb is an action word. It's a word that reports the action. Okay, then Jane is the object. The object is the receiver of the action. Singing makes Jane happy. Now, there's something singing does. And the action performed by singing is received by Jane. You know, Jane is made happy by singing. Singing makes Jane happy. Jane is the object because Jane is the receiver of the action. Jane is the one made happy, and happy is the complement. Happy is what completes the meaning of the object. This is what we call the object complement. And a complement always completes the meaning of a sentence. When we stop somewhere, then there is something else needed to complete the meaning, especially when a relevant question arises. For example, if we say singing makes Jane, it's incomplete. Makes Jane what? You know? So happy is needed to complete the meaning of the object. And that's why we call it the object complement. Singing makes Jane happy. Okay? Singing makes Jane happy. You know, something could make someone angry, but in this case, singing makes Jane happy. Okay? Now, number 10, we have SVOO. A sentence with the SVOO structure contains 4 elements: subject plus verb plus object plus object. For example, Dave gave Junior some money. Now, Dave is the subject, gave is the verb, Junior is the object, and some money is also an object. And you may ask me, why do we have 2 objects in this sentence? Well, one is a direct object, the other is an indirect object. Now, some students get confused as to which is the direct and which is the indirect object. I will explain this to you. Now, Dave gave Junior some money. Now, some money is the direct object because when you stretch your hand to give money to someone, that action of giving has first been performed on the money before it is extended to the receiver. So the receiver is the indirect object, and the money or the gift is the direct object. So the direct object is some money, and the indirect object is Junior. Now, I hope this is clear. Dave gave Junior some money. If we reconstruct the sentence using a preposition, what we have is Dave gave some money to Junior. You see, Dave, first of all, picks the money he wants to give. Now, he could have given it to Jack. He may decide to give it to Jane. However, he decides to give it to Junior. So whomever he gives the money is a secondary object. But the first thing that is done is that Dave picks the money, and he has made a decision to give this money to someone. Incidentally, he gives it to Junior. So Junior is the indirect object, and some money is the direct object. I hope this is clear. All right. Now, number 11, which of course is bringing us closer to the end of this lesson, we have SVOCA. A sentence with the SVOCA structure contains 5 parts: subject plus verb plus object plus complement plus adjunct, which means all the elements that are required to make a complete sentence in English are complete in this structure. And this is what we call SVOCA, SVOCA. For example, playing makes children excited all the time. Playing makes children excited all the time. Now let's analyze this sentence. Playing is the subject, and we are using playing also as a gerund, a nominalized verb, a verb we have converted into a noun, and it becomes the subject. The subject is the topic of the sentence, is the doer of the action. that is reported by the verb. Playing makes children excited all the time. So when we look at this, playing is the subject, makes is the verb, children is the object, excited is the complement, all the time is the adjunct. And when you look at all these, then you will begin to understand the various parts of the English sentence and the various roles they play, so that together they enable the sentence to convey its intended meaning. And so when we look at this, playing is the subject, makes is an action verb. Now, object is the children receive the action of playing. You know, playing makes, children receive the action, and then they get excited. So excited is the complement, because we need excited to complete the meaning of the sentence. If you say playing makes children, the listener will ask you an obvious question. Playing makes children what? There are many things that playing could make children, playing could make them happy. Well, if they get wounded, of course, playing also makes them angry sometimes. When in the process of playing, they get injured, they get angry. So if you say playing makes children, someone will ask, playing makes children what? And the complement is excited. Excited in its meaning as a word is, first of all, the past participle of a verb that we use as an adjective here. Of course, if you browse through the channel, you will find videos I have uploaded on nominalizing adverbs. And so nominalizing verbs, nominalizing adverbs. When we nominalize the word excite and we use the past participle, which is excited, we turn it into an adjective, especially when we use it to describe something. Now, children are excited when they play. Children are excited. So excited describes the mood of the children. In this sentence, it functions as a complement, because you also ought to understand that an adjective either modifies, it can either serve as a modifier or it can serve as a complement, okay? It becomes a complement when it comes after the verb, all right? For example, when we say the children are excited, that's a complement. But then excited is still a complement, but here it is the object complement. And what the complement does all the time is that it completes the meaning of the sentence. I hope this is clear. And then all the time is the adjunct. And this is what an adjunct does. As I earlier mentioned, an adjunct is an adverbial, and in this case, an adverbial phrase all the time. It provides answer to the question, how often? When you say playing makes children excited, how often does playing make children excited? All the time, or you can say always, all right? Or you can say most of the time. So all the time, or most of the time, or always can be used as an adjunct of frequency that answers the question, how often or how frequently does this happen? Okay, so let's look at number 12, which is going to be the last but not the least of this subject, of this sentence structures. Now, number 12 is VSVO. A sentence with the VSVO structure contains 4 parts: verb plus subject plus verb plus object. And this is when you ask a question. In subsequent lectures, we might look at a myriad of English sentence structures that are meant for asking questions. But today we have given just an example. So VSVO, verb plus subject plus verb plus object. And this happens when there is an inversion. You know, the usual structure of a sentence begins with the subject. Subject, verb, object, subject, verb, complement, subject, verb, adjunct, and so on and so forth. But here, a sentence that begins with a verb is obviously a question, because here we have inverted the sentence structure in order to ask a question. For example, did you take my book? Now, if you listen to the intonation, I have used the rising tone. Did you take my book? Did you take my book? Of course, if you browse through the channel, you will find a video I have uploaded on intonation. And there is another one that will give you complete explanation, not only about intonation, but also about stress. So you have stress and intonation. And these are aspects of oral English, because we have spoken English, we have written English, okay? And today we are dealing with the structure of the English grammar. Did you take my book? Did is the verb, you is the subject, take is another verb, and my book is the object. Did you take my book? So did is an auxiliary verb. And in most cases, when you want to ask a yes or no question, in most cases, you begin with an auxiliary verb. Are you a Nigerian? Do you play football? Can you swim? You know, when we want to ask some common yes or no questions, we begin with the auxiliary verb. And so here, the first verb is the auxiliary. Did you take my book? Did is an auxiliary verb. You is the subject in this sentence. Take is the main verb. And then my book is the object, okay? So, and this is where we draw the curtain on today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you like the video and share it with your friends and relations. I have quite a lot of resources that you will find in the description section below. And the links there will give you instant access to any of them you are interested in. For example, there are ebooks. One of them is Good Success in English. Is a complete study package for effective English learning. And most of the people who have bought this ebook have a lot of good things to talk about it. Some said the book has really transformed their life linguistically. Of course, that is what it does, because it's one ebook that contains all the aspects of the English language, all the areas of proficiency, whether you want to gain proficiency in English grammar, or in English speaking, or in English writing, or in summary, or in reading comprehension, all the aspects of English language, all the areas of proficiency, whatever you want to learn in the English language is in this book. And so you might be interested in it. Just click on the link below and you will grab a copy of the book. I have a free PDF e-file also you can simply download completely free of charge. It is titled The Basic Units of English Grammar. Of course, there are some ebooks there that will teach you some digital skills. We live in the 21st century, and what we do on this channel is that apart from teaching you the English language, we also teach you how you can use the English language to create content, because content creation is one of the most lucrative digital skills in the 21st century. If you can use a language proficiently, then you can use it to create content, valuable content. And if you can create valuable content, then you can monetize your content and use it to create multiple streams of income on various online platforms. If you are interested in such a skill, then you can check the description section. You will also find a complete training program that will enable you to acquire the skill. So whichever you are interested in, just click on it. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, kindly leave them in the comment section below. I want to say a big thank you to all of you out there for being part of today's episode. I look forward to seeing you in the next class. Goodbye for now, and remain blessed. Many thanks for watching today's video. A big thank you to all of you out there for being part of today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, kindly subscribe to this channel. Subscribe now as a way of giving us support. For notification about new videos, click on the bell icon. You will find the bell icon. Click on it so that whenever a new video is uploaded, you will be instantly notified. If you have actually enjoyed the video, like and share the video with your friends and relatives. This is very important. If you have any comments, leave your comments below. Any questions, any suggestions, we would gladly receive them and respond promptly and positively to them. See you in the next video. I look forward to always seeing you in the new video. Thank you, and